Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Excited to have you here with us. Today, I have my good friend, Mark Filler. He has a rich experience in the background, really around lending, but he's also a real estate investor. And today, we're going to talk about a topic that everybody should pay close attention to, which is finding deals without spending money on advertising. So I'm big on advertising because it helps kind of fill your funnel, and I talk a lot about it. And we talk about lead generation a lot, but the sweetest leads are the ones that you don't have to pay for, that you get through relationships. Professional real estate investors know that it's not really about the real estate. In fact, real estate is just a vehicle to freedom. A group of over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors from across the country meet several times a year at the Investor Fuel Real Estate Mastermind to share ideas on how to strengthen each other's businesses, but also to come together as friends and build more fulfilling lives for all of those around us. On today's show, we're going to continue our conversation of fueling our businesses and fueling our lives. I'm glad you're here. Hey, Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to have you here. And so excited to have you kind of share some of your insights today. You guys do a lot of volume. I know you have a lot of big projects going on. I know you're in Chicago. You guys do really heavy, big rehabs. And the cool thing about it is you find all of them through relationships, right?
Almost all. Little bit of seller direct marketing, but most of it's relationship driven.
Yeah. And that's great because real estate investors tend to be kind of lazy, and sometimes we just throw money at stuff and hope it'll work. But the reality is it's harder work to network. But after you get a system and process down and you start to build some of those relationships, the good thing about the relationship marketing is you could get repeat business from it, where direct to seller marketing, it's not impossible, but you don't get as much repeat.
You don't
business.
usually, right?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. So it's going to be a great discussion. So before we get started, tell us about your background. I know you have a really rich background before you kind of found your way into real estate investing, but take a couple minutes to just tell us about your background.
Sure. I started off my career as a lawyer, and I spent about five years as a lawyer, and then I was about 30 years old, and I woke up and I said to myself, I don't have any family money, so I knew I had to work for another 30 years or so. And I just said I was kind of bored being a lawyer, and I was making good money and things were going well and all that, but I was just kind of bored. So I decided to do something more entrepreneurial, and a friend of mine convinced me to start a mortgage company. So we started a mortgage company, and we grew it actually quite large. We did an IPO, we took it public, we sold it to Royal Bank of Canada, and then I started a couple more mortgage companies. So I've been about 25 years in the mortgage business. And then about 10 years ago, I decided to get into hard money lending. I started a hard money lender, and that was called Jordan Capital, and it was named after my son Jordan. And we grew that from scratch to become one of the largest national hard money lenders. Ended up selling it to Blackstone in 2017. That company, Blackstone, when they bought it from us, they renamed it. They didn't like the name Jordan Capital, so they renamed it something much more professional called Finance of America Commercial. So a lot of you guys know that they're one of the largest lenders in the country right now, called Finance of America Commercial. But in 2017, when I sold the business, I had a non-compete in conjunction with the sale. So I wasn't allowed to do any lending. So then I said to myself, well, what am I gonna do, since really the only thing I know anything about is lending. And because we had been lending to flippers, that was the main business, was lending to flippers and lending to landlords, but mostly flippers. I had learned a lot about flipping just because that was who we were lending to.
Right.
I was constantly meeting with our customers and trying to understand their business. And I decided that I liked their business more than I liked the lending business. And so I decided one day to become a house flipper. And if somebody had told me that I was going to be a house flipper, I probably would have killed myself, actually. But I decided it was actually looked like a lot of fun, and I saw a lot of clients making good money and having a good life. And it also afforded me some of the flexibility to do some other things like skiing and other things, and being with my family, things that I
Yep.
like to do. So it started it about 2 years ago, and we've been flipping houses for about 2 years now. I think we're the largest flipper in Chicago, in Illinois. We do about 100 deals a year, or 10 deals a month. Most of our deals are full rehab, so our average rehab is almost $100,000.
Right.
We do a little bit of wholesale, and we'll get into more of the details, and I can explain kind of why we're doing a lot more rehabs than we are doing wholesale. So that's kind of my quick background on how I got into it. About 18 months ago, I got really, really lucky. I was looking for a partner, because again, I had no background in flipping, so I needed people that knew the business 1,000 times better than I knew it. I had ideas, but I really need people that really had a lot of experience doing it. And so I got really lucky. I found three partners. They were all really close buddies, and they had already been partners together. So they were already doing it, but they needed capital. So I kind of was I kind of brought some capital, some of my own capital into the business. And then I helped raise about $5 million of private capital. But really my three partners do the bulk of the work. They have tons of experience. They're awesome. I love working with them, and I just got really, really lucky that we have a great partnership that's worked out, and everybody has a little bit of their own role in the partnership.
Yeah, real estate investing is a natural fit for partners, because there's so many, a lot of real estate investors are small and they do everything, but it's real easy to kind of lay out on a whiteboard of like departments of the company, whether it's the financing part or lead generation or acquisitions, business operations. You guys have a huge operation because you do such, $100,000 average rehab. You guys are doing some heavy rehabs up there.
We are.
And I'm from Chicago. I moved from Chicago. I think told you that before. So I know there's a lot of old buildings, a lot of old properties, a lot of revitalization going on in older areas of town. And so I know that you guys have to do a lot of really heavy rehabs there, right?
Big picture. What we do is we have one of the partners who's mostly focused on the construction side of the business. Another partner is mostly focused on the acquisition side of the business. And then another partner is mostly focused on kind of the reporting, the back office, the operations, and the marketing side of the business.
Right. Yep. So talk a little bit about, you guys have focused pretty heavily on the relationship side for direct, kind of compared to direct to seller marketing, direct mail, pay-per-click, lots of other things you could do. A part of my business has always been relationships, about a third of my business, but you guys are at 100%, which there's pros and cons to every type of acquisition, but share some of the pros and cons and why you guys have chose up to this point, at least, to primarily focus.
Sure. We're probably about 80%. Well, no. Let me rephrase that. We're very relationship based, and we get probably half of our deals that way. But I forgot to mention to you, we still get half of our deals from the MLS.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So we what happened is, and this is really a function of how we raise the money. When I went out to raise money from people, it was easy to say to people, I'm going to raise money to buy houses. And basically the collateral that they have is the houses. But it would be a much more difficult sell to tell people that I was going to raise money to do marketing. Because then there's no collateral. Right. So that's kind of a key reason, because of how we've raised our capital, is a key reason strategically why we do so much through the MLS and why we do so much with relationships.
Yeah.
So in terms of, so again, let's just say half is at MLS. One of my partners, the one who I mentioned, is in charge of acquisitions. He is just the guru of the MLS. He spends most of his day looking at deals, making offers. So we make hundreds of offers a month, and through the MLS, we have some automated technology that helps us automate that process and make it more efficient.
Okay.
But then on the relationship side, it's primarily real estate brokers. We also do get deals from other wholesalers and real estate attorneys as well. And so we have a very, very heavy marketing to relationship based marketing,
Yeah.
both text marketing as well as email. We send out an email blast to our entire database twice a month. We also text our database twice a month as well.
Okay.
So we're reaching out to our database once a week, whether it's email or text. And again, that's primarily real estate brokers.
Sure, sure. So, Mark, do you think it seems like in Chicago, there's other markets probably like this in the Northeast and New York and things like that, where the houses are old, so the rehabs are heavy. There's a lot of in Chicago. There's a lot of heavy permitting issues and compliance stuff, right? So that probably weeds out. I mean, that's one way you're able to still get these deals off the MLS, because there's not everybody has skin thick enough to deal with that, or has the access to capital to be able to do that in a big enough way, right?
I agree. That's definitely one of our differentiators, and my partners had a lot of background doing that. So they were very comfortable with those, I would say kind of moderately heavy rehabs. We're not doing $200,000 and $300,000 rehabs, but we are doing, significant rehab. And you're right. I think there's a lot more people in our market that are willing to do $10,000-$20,000 of cleanup and just quick rehab, but not nearly as many that are maybe stupid enough, like we are, to do.
Well, you've eliminated your competition by doing the hardest, some of the hardest work that's out there.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had many people tell us we're idiots for what we do, because it is definitely got its challenges, and we've learned lots of hard lessons. And it was not easy, because when we were buying 10 houses a month and rehabbing them, that means we have a lot of contractors we're dealing with. So everybody who's in this business knows the challenges of dealing with contractors. But imagine if you're trying to do 50 houses at once and dealing with contractors. It's
in a market that's notoriously heavy with permitting and compliance.
Permitting's horrible. You're completely right. Permitting is horrible. The amount of time from the time we buy the property to the time we actually can really do the rehab is very frustrating. We're getting better at it, and we're very focused on it. We've brought in architects to do the plans for us to speed things up. But it's definitely regularly takes longer than we hope.
Sure. So Mark, you said you do a lot with agents and brokers, some attorneys, and then, even wholesalers and buying on the MLS. So probably not so much the MLS, but of course, realtors, you would know this better than anyone, but they obviously have pocket listings and other deals sometimes that haven't technically hit the MLS yet. You're kind of like notifying them and building these relationships up so that if they come across a deal, we'll get into incentives in just a moment here, like how you incentivize them to bring you deals. But you're trying to train people to like, hey, come to us first if you have a deal. We'll make it really easy for you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your outreach. You talked about you send out emails, you send out text messages. I know you guys have some kind of happy hours and parties and events where you pull people together and to keep kind of nurturing that relationship. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we take them out for lunch. We do lunch and learns. We do happy hours. We basically just do anything we possibly can and that's kind of, in some ways, that's instead of spending money on marketing, we'll spend money on relationships as well.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it's repeat business. So basically, we're going to do everything we can through incentives, through parties, through just building relationships the old-fashioned way, so that when they have that listing that's a tough property, it needs rehab, it's not really it's not really a retail ready kind of property, or maybe they have a listing that's old that they just the seller all of a sudden becomes really motivated, or maybe they just had a deal fall through and the seller's really frustrated, so now they're ready to sell it for a lower price. We want to be the first call they get. I mean, the first call they make. And so we just do everything we possibly can. And then we can talk about, we also offer we a lot of our email and text blasts will talk about how we'll offer triple commission. So even though we have a brokerage, but we'll give up that brokerage commission, give them both sides of the transaction, and then we'll in our ads we'll say we'll give them triple commission, because not only do they get both sides of the transaction, but when we flip the house, since we're not holding these for rental, when we flip it, we'll also give them the listing.
Yeah.
We think the triple commission, and I stole this idea from another company that was doing.
You modeled it.
I modeled, borrowed it. So we really play heavily on this kind of idea of triple commission, and that's definitely been a key to a lot of the relationships.
Sure. So they get both sides. They get both sides. That probably the seller side is paying on the purchase, right?
Yeah.
And then when you list it, you're paying them, and you're paying them the traditional 3% as well.
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, money talks, right?
Money talks, and it's a little tough because we are brokers, so we could be keeping that commission ourselves, but we think that this is really a way to generate deals for us.
Yeah, and again, that's in lieu of some other marketing costs that you might have, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So there's hidden marketing costs to what we're doing, but it's just a different way of spending money.
Yep. So you do things like happy hours, and then you guys are just have what kind of talk a little bit about what happens at a happy hour or a party, or how you communicate in your emails. It's obviously, hey, we'll pay you triple commission if you have a deal, but how do you try to nurture those relationships, like person to person wise, rather than just like throwing money at them? Because I know that's a big part of it too, is them feeling like they're part of something else, right?
I think the first thing we have to do is we have to establish credibility. And we're able to do that fairly easily just because they see that we're really active in the market. We are definitely one of the biggest players in the market. So we can show them that we've done, way over 100 deals, so that they know we're for real. They know we really do have money. But the key is really to do what is just simple. You got to do what you say you're going to do. So if we tell them when we meet with them, we tell them, if we tell you we're going to buy the property, we're going to buy the property. And if we say we're going to buy the property for $200,000, we're going to buy the property for $200,000. So to be really honest, to be really upfront, not to retrade on price. And it doesn't mean if we go in there and we find things that they didn't tell us about, that we won't try to renegotiate the price. But if it is as they presented it, we will go in and we will pay what we said we were going to pay.
Right. Yeah, not for realtors, for a typical realtor though, not, they care about, obviously a triple commission is fantastic because nobody else is giving them that. But on top of that, it's the easy button too, right? It's like, hey, we're going to do this. I know, for the most part, you guys would, especially if you're rehabbing, you would prefer to close as fast as possible. And then of course you have to sell it as quickly as possible because it's costing you money every day. And so everything is in their incentive. You're going to make more money and faster than a traditional route, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had good luck with it. I mean, it's really, like I said, it's a big part of our business.
Sure.
But also I do want to make clear that we still think the MLS is a great place. I know most investors seem to be, say, hey, the MLS is stupid because it's public information. But that's kind of a big part of our secret sauce as well.
Yeah, and I think part of it is because there's so much opportunity and requirement for value add in your market, right? I mean, in a market like Dallas where I'm at, a typical rehab might be more of like 20 or 30,000. Not that there's not. I mean, I've spent over 100,000 on rehabs before, but a typical one, it's just quicker. They're just not as, they're probably more commonly a 30 or 40-year-old house than a 100-year-old house that just needs a lot of updates. So.
And in Chicago, there's so many properties that are just really not ready for retail, and so that really plays to our advantage.
Yeah, I think even here, sometimes in Dallas where I'm at, a $30,000 or $40,000 rehab, if it's largely cosmetic, they might still be able to sell that to a retail buyer that can get traditional financing. Maybe not FHA, but the types of rehabs you guys are doing there, like a traditional lender's not going to touch it, right? Unless somebody does what you do.
Lenders won't touch it, and most retail buyers won't touch it.
Yep. Yeah. So Mark, any thoughts on people that kind of hear this and they want to kind of emulate just maybe a little bit of lessons learned on the networking part, like how to build relationships like over time. And I know probably one of the things you'll say is it's important to be consistent, right? And just
Yeah.
constantly be in front of people. But any other kind of tips or thoughts on that?
No, you know what? Honestly, I wish I had some real secret sauce. It's simple. It's like you said. It's consistent. It's a pain in the neck. We're constantly having to create new emails, new text messages, and we're constantly having to market. So we just are religious. We have a calendar that we put together, and we just say on this date we're gonna send out an email to the whole database. On this day we're gonna send out a text, and it's just staying consistent, kind of recreating. A lot of times our emails won't even talk about triple commission. A lot of times we'll just show a recent deal, and then in addition, by the way, when we send out these email blasts, a lot of times we'll put in a blurb about there. And by the way, our investors made 14%, or our investor made 22%, whatever they made
Yeah.
on the deal. And so we're also trying to put in people's mind that we're always looking to raise money as well. So there's kind of a dual strategy in some of our marketing. Although the main strategy is finding deals, but the secondary strategy is also trying to find people that want to invest.
Yep, that's a good idea. And I'm sure it's different in every market, but would you say through all this relationship building that the majority of your leads, or kind of what mix, comes from new listings that haven't hit the market yet that the agent knew they wanted to come to you, versus old stuff that the seller reset expectations, or the deal fell through, or something that's kind of been listed and they're like, hey, go to plan B? Like, do you know kind of that mix of people you're catching early on versus
You
stuff?
know what? I'm embarrassed to tell you this. I'd have to make up an answer because I don't know. That's a good
Yeah. I
question.
always ask questions that are hard to answer.
Yeah.
So I'm
My,
good at
my
that.
partners could answer that. I don't
Yeah.
know the answer.
Sure. Yeah, I get it. So, Mark, you've been a member of the Investor Fuel Mastermind for a little while here. Been to
Yep.
2 or 3 meetings now, or you or your team. Could you maybe share some thoughts on? You've been in some. You've been around for a long time, and I think our group is a little bit different than most or other associations, if you will, that might be out there. Could you maybe just kind of share some thoughts on what your experience has been with Investor Fuel?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I've been to meetings, and then also the last meeting, my partners, I actually had a conflict, so my partners went instead, and we're all huge fans. I think the most amazing thing is just how much people are willing to share. Like the last meeting that I went to, when they asked us to give out the giver, who was the biggest givers, I had to name, several people, because I was really just amazed by how many people were very open about sharing stuff that's really, really proprietary to their business, but just didn't hold back. I think people really enjoy being together. The dinners are lots of fun. Lots of good relationships. I know people go on trips together, and lots of people do deals together. I think it's money that's extraordinarily well spent, and I definitely I hope I'm part of Investor Fuel forever, and we plan to be part of Investor Fuel forever.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. I don't know if I told you yet, we're actually about to announce our forever plan. No, kidding.
Oh,
I'm joking. But no, we appreciate that. I mean, we think we've built this culture of give and you're going to receive back. And I think that everybody, a lot of people that come in, real estate investors, are naturally a little timid to believe that up front or whatever, because this is a kind of in many ways a dog eat dog
no,
industry, right? But I think when people kind of get in and they're like, sometimes they feel like, wow, I got so much, I need to find a way to give more,
I think also the last comment I would make about Investor Fuel, it's a great size. So some masterminds, I think, are too small. So you just don't have as many members, which means you just don't have as many ideas. You don't have as many people to learn from. You don't have as many people to share with. So you just don't get as much out of it. And then some masterminds could be just too big, where it's just too impersonal, and you don't really get to know the people well enough to really learn and share, which is what the whole idea is. So I think this is kind of like just a perfect size. I hope it's definitely can grow a little bit, but it's just a lot of value add, just a great network in there.
Well, thank you for that, Mark. So if you borrow money from people in Chicago, or I guess you'd be willing to borrow money from people anywhere. You guys have a lot of money on the street out right now. I mean,
right.
It's pretty sizable.
We have a senior lender, and then in addition to that, we've raised about $5 million from friends. We raised two different kinds of capital. Some people prefer to give us money in the form of debt, and we pay them 14 to 15% interest, and we pay interest quarterly. And then some people would forego the debt and rather take and not get quarterly interest payments, and then they give us equity instead. And those people have been earning between 20 and 25%. Actually, we give them actual equity in deals.
Wow,
and we raised it. Most of our investors give us maybe $100,000. We have some investors that have given us $1 million, but all together we've raised about $5 million from basically from friends.
And then you have some senior debt on top of that, which is probably even larger pool, right? So yeah.
We have a senior debt line of about $25 million.
Yeah, so you've got a lot of money. You have a big appetite, let's say. Folks are interested in lending, or they're wholesalers that want to work with you in Chicago, or any other way that they might see some opportunity to talk to you. Where should they go to connect with you guys?
Well, it's my personal email I can give out is mfiller@apexhomepartners.com. mfiller@apexhomepartners.com. And then our website is Apex National Real Estate.
Let me write that down. Awesome. So if you guys are driving right now, I'm going to get these links down in the show notes. So make sure you check them out online, and we'll make sure we get that to you. So
anybody who wants to share ideas or pick our brains or ask anything about what we're doing, we're complete open book. So we'll be happy to share. And anybody who wants to invest, we love that even more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're doing all the things that are like every collaboration you could possibly do: buying from wholesalers, bringing in equity partners or debt partners, buying from networking, and borrowing money from the outside world too. So you're obviously, everything you just said has collaboration written all over it. So
absolutely,
if folks are interested, make sure you contact Mark, or go to the link below and contact his company, and they'll reach out to you. So Mark, thanks for sharing so much great knowledge today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And looking forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you for Investor Fuel.
Yeah, thank you. For everybody that's listening right now, we'd love it if you subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, wherever you're watching right now. We'd love it if you subscribe to us and give us a positive review. Of course, you can find all of our shows at investorfuel.com. Till the next episode, we'll see you then.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Mike.
Are you an active real estate investor? If so, and you want to latch on to the power of surrounding yourself with over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors, all committed to building stronger businesses and living richer, fuller lives, you should jump on a call with us to learn more about Investor Fuel. Simply visit investorfuel.com to get started.